Okay, welcome back to Lifestyle with me, Pam Joseph. Right, every week we have what we call our BLM panel, Black Lives Movement panel, and we're looking at certain issues that really want to sort of sticking with us here on our shores in the UK. But as we all know, the whole thing was sort of kicked off, if you will, with only the fact that we had this tragic death and racist death, if you will, of George Floyd in Maine, in the States, where a police officer rested on his neck for well into 9 minutes and causing his death. So every week we talk about particular things and how we can move with it, how we can deal with this, and what's happening with race relations and inequalities going on in the UK. So this week we deal with the world of sport. So we thought that we can hear from some of the movers and shakers who could give us an idea of things that currently are going on, currently past, things that are past actually, and the pioneers, heroes and shearers that have made this past. So we've got a panel of guests, and I'm going to first of all introduce to you former 100 and 200 meter gold and silver medalist sprinter Mike McFarlane, OBE. Are you with me, sir?
Oh.
Hello there, and Mike, how are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. How are yourself?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Lovely for you to join us. Thank you ever so much for that.
No problem.
We're hoping to get others to come on board now, so we're going to clamber for this now. Tony Jarrett, again, won gold and silver medals respectively, hurdling athlete and sprinter. Tony, hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Lovely to see you. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Okay. And I think we're waiting. Last but not least, but I can't say that about him because he's been covering sporting issues for over 2 decades now, and that's Joel Campbell, sports journalist of the Voice newspaper and co-founder of Global Sport in Colour. Gentlemen, lovely to have you with us.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. All right, the first thing I'm going to kick off with is when we talk about inequalities in certain factors and issues, whatever, we talk about this now, we're looking at focusing on sport. A lot has been done. I can probably say this with a lot of things that, Mike, you have come out with saying, other people in your peer group, like, Dalton Grant, etc. And even Tony, now you sit there in front of me, that you've dealt with and actually pioneered to get certain structures looked at and reversed any sort of inequalities and racial issues. I'm looking at 2020, and my question is going to be, first of all, how was that improved from, say, 15, 20 years ago? Race relations within sport.
Listen, things haven't changed, but they have changed. And as you've probably recognized and hear, that we're not much further forward than we was when I was an athlete. But we have made movements, and I think things are about change. It takes time, and time is something that you believe we don't always have.
Tony?
Yeah, I agree with Mac. I just believe things are changing, slow, but I think in these times now, and what's been happening in the world and with the George Floyd thing, with quite a lot of change happening, and hopefully the change is going to be for the good, because it's about time we need to change in our industry of athletics.
I mean, Joel, you can equally say about yourself, you're not in the sport, but you've been reporting the sport, and you've been doing it, like I said, over 2 decades now. So what would you say, you lead up to 2020, 2021, have you seen in particular sports changes, and has it been dramatic? Is it enough?
I guess change is relative, so it depends what you're looking at. I guess, like you said, Mac and Tony's experiences will be slightly different to mine because they were participants within sport, and now they're coaches. So I guess as a participant, it'd be one question. As a coach, it'd be another. If you're talking about, just the responsibility of sport to be a more egalitarian place, I guess there's been advancements and progress and change. Whether that looks like the amount of progress and change that we want is another question. But we have to keep pushing, keep pressing the button, and make sure that we highlight wherever there's iniquity within sport, whatever shape or form it shows up in.
Mhm. I mean, one of the questions that many people ask, particularly young people ask this as well, is that, you know, when you talk about the pioneers, we all seem to see that many people, and I'm talking about your white counterparts, when they go through a certain thing, they've gone for their sporting world, then all of a sudden they're elevated into becoming commentators here and doing this over there. And, you know, and they become managers of a team, and they become like this in the football world and things like that. And we're not seeing the same sort of growth happening within, you know, our communities and our heroes and shearers within their own disciplined world of sport, if you will.
Yeah, I think for me, it's time to definitely confront racism and the inequality that exists across sport, from grassroots participation right up until the boardroom. And I think that that's one of the areas that we really need to home in on, because for me, this isn't a top-down or a bottom-up approach. It's a whole 360 that needs to go underneath the microscope. And in terms of, you know, my own efforts, my own journey, I should say. 20 years ago when I came into this game, I was the only roster in the press box, and 20 years later, I'm still the only roster in the press box. So, you know, from that point of view, nothing's changed for me. But for black people, do I see more of us? Yes, I do, but not as many as I think really want to push through some of the boundaries. I'm just talking about journalism specifically now. There isn't enough of us, and there isn't enough of us that believe that there's a way in for them. So we have to look at the reasons why. And for me, a lot of that is by holding the media and communications departments to account, but holding big institutions from the board down, holding them all to account and asking them why it doesn't look like the world that we live in.
Yeah. Mike, can I come to you? I mean, in the fact that you're a coach now and you elevated to that degree, but I was sort of like almost saying that when we do see when the Olympics go, you know, happens, and you've got the BBC and ITV covering it, and you've got certain pioneers back in the day, they're sitting there on the couch or sitting in the studio talking about these young ones in there. Now, I see that they've gone and imported, in the last one, the 200-meter US sprinter. I cannot remember his name for the life of me right now. But they've imported him on the couch and BBC to be talking about, you know, these events. And shouldn't we have had our own?
Listen, that's always been with our sport. We always go for the people that are supposed to be very well known and have delivered. And I think we do forget about the people that have been successful within the UK all the way through. Conscious bias, unconscious bias, it could be seen any which way you want. I agree with bringing Michael Johnson over, but also, as you said, there's people that are just as well educated, just as well qualified to do that particular job. It's what they see and it's what they want, and right place, right time. Are we in the right place? I think sometimes we are. Do we get opportunity? No, we don't. How do we go about it? Maybe we need to be more together. And the one thing that I think we're not as a community, as a sport, or whatever you want to put it, we're not together. So for us to move forward, we have to be honest. There's enough food on the table for all of us to eat. But what we don't do is we don't sit down and say, right, Tony, you're good at X. We'll make sure Tony gets sorted out. Mike, you're good at Y. We make sure you get put it out. We don't do that.
Okay. All right, Tony, let me move over to you. I mean, I just said that. Just an example I gave, but what I'm trying to say is that it just seems as if, you know, once you've done your bit, you've won your medals, you've gotten there, you know, you're not picked to sort of stand at the rostrum level where everyone is there and commentate and talk about it and your feelings, because when I did this and that, he must be feeling like this right now. Let's get a talk with this chap. And I can't see why we can't have you lot doing it. We see the Crams and I see all of them doing it. And I always wonder, well, where's McFarlane? Where's Jarrett? Where's Christie? Where, you know, why aren't you lot standing down there talking to these young ones?
I look at it as like what they normally do is like, when to bring in Michael Johnson, is like they see a world record holder, 2-time Olympic champion, They look at Pam as, you know, world record holder, winning medals, and they just choose those ones. They don't really look at the rest, who else is down there. And it's, if your face fits, you get in. If your face not fit, you're not going to get in. You know, I believe that somebody like McFarlane, myself, or Linford definitely should be in there. But if your face don't fit, you're not going to get that spot. And they're looking for their chosen people who you know. That's how I look at it. It's who you know in that genre, then you can get in.
So what can we do? What can we do? We move and shake. How do we do this? Joel spoke about, Mike spoke about getting together. Joel spoke about, you know, let's ask questions. Let's go to these institutions. Let's start. How can we do this? How can we drum it up? What can we do?
That's like Mike said. We need to just get around the table and start talking to the big cats. You know what I mean? Because those are the ones who you need to talk to. You need to get involved with them, sit around the table and say, look, give some other coaches, other athletes an opportunity to get on that scene. And it just, if you can get there and do that, then we can make a difference.
Joel?
My whole strategy, my whole play, Pam, is to embarrass them into you know, the obvious, right? So in 2018-19, the Diversity in Sports Governance report identified that there was only 5% of BAME board representation across Sport England and UK sport funded organisations. That's where we start. We start with that figure there, 5% of BAME, 5%. So that's not even black. That's BAME, all right? So we know that includes everybody else. And I've spoken on your show many times about the diluting of how the black agenda and how it has been conflated with, you know, the agenda of gays, transsexuals, women, disabled people. And with all due respect, they should fight their corner. And I understand their plight, but I understand the plight of black people more. And so from my point of view, the figure of 5% representation across Sport England and UK sport funded organisations is where we start, because we have to ask them how it is they feel that that's acceptable. You're funded by us.
Yeah.
So it's not on. And I think that that's what we need to really point out in order to kind of instigate the type of change that we want to see. It's all very well us getting together in a crowded room and shouting at each other till we're blue in the face. But we need to make sure some of the indigenous people, some of the rural and decision makers are in there too.
Yeah.
I sat down with Joanna Coates, the new CEO of British Athletics, a couple of months ago. And I asked her what she was going to do to address the lack of representation of her staff in terms of people that look like me being involved. She's new to the job, so she's not responsible for anything that's gone on. What we can do, though, is hold her to account and to make her responsible for what she does moving forward. And there needs to be a concerted and consistent effort to pull her up and make sure she delivers the best job that she can, and not to resort to the old ways of doing things, which, you know, maybe her predecessors they kind of gravitate to as a matter of course. So those are the kind of things that we can do.
That's good. I want to talk about the young ones, because, you know, the young ones are still in there, and the young ones are they may not really know it. They're rather powerful. The young ones are not talking. Are they all right? Because they don't. No one's talking. Everyone seems to be fine and dandy.
No, I don't know. I've seen some young. Personally, I think a lot of the energy out here is being driven by young people. I think if I talk to people in their 40s and 50s and 60s, I get the same rhetoric. We're tired. You know, a lot of our people are of those ages are used to this fight. It's not nothing new. You know, we've dealt with this our whole life. So a lot of the energy, you know, down to Corsten's statue being dragged into the Bristol river, that was all young people. A lot of the people marching up and down, it's all young people. So that energy, they're not having it no more. What we need to do as the elders is to make sure that we support them in their efforts. and use that energy to lean on establishments and institutions to force the change that we want to see.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There was the young ones; they're the ones protesting, and they're the ones doing, all the marches and what have you, and they are very vocal and whatever. But I'm thinking about the ones in the sports right now. I'm thinking of the ones that are quite high in the sports right now. I'm thinking about the fact that there's still things going on that they don't seem to be talking about. I don't know if they are happy or are they just complacent. Could they be saying, are they not in the position? Have they not got enough power now to be saying, do you know what? I'm all right, but I'll tell you what. You lot need to fix up with this. And shouldn't they be, I don't know, shouldn't the young ones, Mike, Tony, talk to me.
I think the young ones know, but they're just keeping quiet.
Why?
Because they don't want to step on the wrong shoes. You know what I mean? They don't want to make somebody ruin their career. You know what I mean? Or, something to, so that they won't make the next step. I think the youngsters do know. They do know, but they're waiting. They're just waiting really and see what they can do. They're just waiting really. They know what's going on. I know there's some of them. I coach some of them, so I can see they're upset. But they're thinking, what can I say? Who do I need to say it to? You know what I mean? They're looking to like the oldest, like me, Mac, to do something. You know what I mean? So, and for us, like we go back to from the beginning, it's like for us, it's just to get around the table and to speak and say that look, we need to step out and do something because the young kids are the ones that are suffering. They know it, but they can't do nothing. They're too scared to do something anymore.
Okay, Mike, would you agree with the fact that they can't do anything? The young ones.
It's not about they can't do anything. They might not know how to do it. And as Tony said, they've still got their career that they're looking at, and they're afraid to tread on the toes. And I agree with that. But equally, it's a different generation of kids because I think the generation of kids we have now are not as assertive and believing as the guys that I coach, like Tony Jarrett, like the Chambers and people like that are very confident in what they want to do. It's a different generation. I think even when you're coaching them, they're not as robust as the generation that we was before us. So they know it. How they go about it, it's what Joel said. We sit around the table. Are we going to get anything done? There'll be talking. There'll be a lot of shouting. But at the end of the day, it's about trusting and moving forward. And if we can't trust ourselves, we can't move forward.
Indeed. Okay. All right. At this point, guys, I'm going to, because we've got all of these things to read out. There's a lot. I know I can't even get through half that. And everybody, I'm sorry that I don't say your question or your comment. Please believe me that we just try to get as much as we can. I'm not just picking them like that, but we just want to get as many through as possible. So we're going to have a little break now, going to formulate the questions and comments and see which one's impacting. But I do have to go on a level with this, you guys. So it may not be something that might be within your given sport, but let's throw it out there. All right, see you in a 2 ticks. Stay where you are. 2 ticks. Okay, hi, welcome back to Lifestyle with me, Pam Joseph. Right, we're still with Mike McFarlane, OBE, gold and silver medalist sprinter. We're still there with Tony Jarrett, respectively gold and silver hurdling athlete and sprinter. And we're here with our very own sports pundit, we call him our own, Joel Campbell of Global Sporting Colour, and also reporter for The Voice newspaper. I did say we have a lot, so I'm just going to go right in there. I don't know if you lot one are going to answer these questions, but I'm going to kick it off. Stephen from Croydon asks, why do we not see many black people in these so-called elite sports such as golf, tennis, and cricket? Who wants to answer that?
I mean, in terms of everything I've just said, really, one of the things I aim to target is sailing, British sailing, because of the money that they receive, and because I can't see any concerted effort to filter that money through to communities that aren't located in places that what most of the people that participate in that sport look like. So in terms of, to answer directly the question, we need to funnel more money into the areas. I remember talking to Richard Williams, father of Serena and Venus, years ago, and he sat down with me and he explained that, actually it was in 2010, he explained that until we as a people start putting £1 of our money every month into a pot to finance ourselves, then we are at the mercy of all these organizations. They don't do it because they don't want to do it, because they don't feel they need to do it.
Yeah. So, is there no fund out there right now, government initiative fund out there for people, young people gifted with a certain gift and can get them help, disadvantaged kids that can be funded into getting private tuition and help with training?
Loads of them. I'm sure them guys would be more au fait with them off the top of your head, but I know that the Sport and Recreation Alliance, that's the sort of thing they do. UK Sport England, that's the sort of thing that they're supposed to be responsible for. So
Mike, there's a young guy. He's only 7. He's 8 years old, and he seems to be very interested. A black youngster, very interested in golf. But it's got private tuitions everywhere, and the parents can't afford it. Where should he go? Where should they go? Mike? Oh, Mike can't hear me.
Sorry, I didn't hear anything that you asked me there.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I still can't hear you.
Okay, Tony, we'll come back to you. They're going to fix you, Mike. Tony, let me ask you that question. A young boy, he's 7 years old, disadvantaged parents that can't afford proper training. He needs to go to a specialist in golf, a training like that. Where can he go? Where can they go for help?
That's a good question, because I wouldn't know about golf.
These are they call it elite sports, right?
So, there are fundings out there where you can find. But then you're going to be battling with so many other people trying to get that funding, to get on that funding to have that finance. So it's just about pot luck, finding those kind of funding things that can get you that money to actually get you on, to get you to take part in your special event. So it's all about just going out there, finding the right areas and putting your name in there, and hopefully your name pops up and they think you're good enough to fund you. It's not easy. We had to, when I was running, there was nothing like that. We just had to just run, make sure we do well, and then that's when the money starts coming in. We have to defend it for ourselves, talk to our parents, and hustle to get to where we are going.
Yeah. That was back then, and this should be improved by now, because I think what Stephen was trying to say is that maybe Stephen knows of someone within his family, if he is black, and he's saying that these so-called elite sports, so he's calling it like that within brackets and saying that, but maybe we have a lot of young people who want to get into those sort of fields, golf, cricket, and tennis in England, and seemingly you have to be paying for tuition. And their parents can't afford it. So, to get the government help, or maybe that should be properly put up there, that we need help with these other youngsters who want to get into those not normal sports, if you will, for black people. I'm saying this, I say because I'm black. I'm talking about elite sports, in England. So I'm talking about tennis. I'm even talking swimming. I'm talking golf. I'm talking cricket.
I think it's funny because somebody needs to show these young kids where to go, because that's the hardest thing, is to find out where to go. Because I'm guaranteed you speak to most of these kids who want that funding, they haven't got a clue. So they need somebody to let them know that, okay, if you want to do golf, this is where you need to go get that funding. These are the people you can talk to and help you out with the fund, because guaranteed, even in athletics, it's hard for people to know where to go to get their funding, and you have to be at a certain level to get that funding.
Okay, well, I'm going to move from there, but I think we could have to subject to Stephen. But let's look at Janice Wolverhampton. She asks, why is there only a handful of former black sporting individuals? Oh, well, that's my question that I ask, because she's asking, why is there only a handful of former black sporting individuals commented on sports events, at sporting events and on the TV? I asked that before. Donovan from Enfield asks, do you lot think young black footballers now have a better chance of exceeding to management levels? You're not laughing, but come on, Mike. You're not laughing.
God, you repeat the question again, and then you see in between.
Do you think young black footballers now have a better chance of exceeding to management levels now, away
How
from
do you see that?
30 years ago?
No. We're so far away from we are so far away, it's unbelievable. We're just so far away. We have to start. This is about what is going on now, and the opportunities will come, but it will take such a long time. At least it's been brought to the forefront, but it will take such a long time. So in the answer to that, it might sound negative, but we're a long way off.
Okay. So
Do you know what will bring it forward? Maybe.
Go on.
If clubs were to adopt, I say adopt, but if clubs were to overtly, transparently adopt a positive discrimination process of employment, because at the moment they'd say that that's in place already, but if they've already got someone for the job, then they don't need to. They don't need to kick. Yeah, they don't need that process to kick in. But yeah, that would be a way that things might change. And what again, I don't know if it will change in the positive sense, or it will change in the sense that you'd start to embarrass clubs into, we'd start to highlight how many have been for job applications, and because that will be the next story. It'll be like, oh, in the last year we've had 1,000 people apply for jobs and none of them got it. Why is that?
But that's almost bringing in the Rooney Rule.
I think
that's what they're trying to do, is to bring in the Rooney Rule.
You know what, Mike? It's already here. Because do you know that if let me quote this correctly now, if a disabled woman was either deaf or blind, one of the two, applies for a job, wherever she's applying to has to see her. Somebody told me that the other day, who is a very learned individual, and so why they were telling me that is because it is positive discrimination in effect, right?
Yeah.
And so it's already being employed. It's already done. So the whole notion of bringing in the Rooney Rule, if that's what we really want to call it, it shouldn't really be too alarming. I ain't gonna lie, I wasn't for it. But you see where we are now? I want to embarrass people into understanding how deep their systemic and oppressive racism goes.
No,
but I believe what they will do, they will give you one token and say, we're doing our job. They'll put somebody in there and say, oh, wait, we're doing our job, and then that's it.
No, I'm talking, but the same principle would apply. So it's all very well. We've got 5% of paying people on boards sporting than UK sport, right?
Yeah.
That needs to be 10% in a couple of years, then 15%, then 20%. And then we need to keep going like that. So even if they only give one person a job, I want to see incremental growth towards a place where the numbers look better. And then we can start to drill down into, have they been given a job as a security guard, or are these black people being hired as a chairman? Do you see what I mean? And this is what needs to happen. That's the way the process has to go.
Yeah, that one. I'm going to just get the last one because I really can't do anymore. There's two to pick from. I don't know if I can do there's Lewis Hamilton or do the other one. I'm going to go with this Morris and Sheffield Arps. Many sporting heroes of the past receive an honorary award and even titled by the Queen. But I'm aware only few black sportsmen and women are treated in the same way. Don't you think this has got to change now? So they're talking about automatic titles, OBE, PPE, things like that. But then they're going into this automatic honorary awards. Then they go into the titles. So this Morris is saying there's not many blacks that have that though.
Well, I mean, we're sitting with one now. I couldn't comment on that because I've never really drilled down into it. But Mike's got one boiled egg, isn't he?
He's got one.
Do you know what? Listen, I got an OBE. Has it made a difference? Nah. Hasn't made not one iota difference. It's just nice to know that you've been recognised for the work that I've done. not just being an athlete, not just being a coach, but also the work I've done with young people, working for Duke of Edinburgh and stuff like that. So that enables me for someone to take I don't know, put the word out. This is what he's done. He should get some kind of award. So I get an OBE. I did a talk to somebody last week, and it was to do with, this is me as a former Olympian. The first thing they said was, once Olympian, always an Olympian.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So we've got to start to educate people. If they've worked hard and they've deserved X, Y, or Z, then let's help to promote them. Let's help to make sure that we've got the kids below something to aspire to.
Yeah.
I know you're going to say something, Joe. Go on.
No, I was going to ask and Pam, I want to know that Lewis Hamilton question. You know, I love Lewis Hamilton. And I know we're running out of time. So very quickly, but have you looked for it to work for you outside of the UK?
I haven't, but people have now mentioned it to me and said,
that's what you need to do.
Go outside. It's the same thing where we sit down and we say, we bring a lot of foreign people in for, let's use athletics, to do the jobs or whatever, when we've already got the people inside.
Commonwealth, they celebrate it. Go and tell people in the Commonwealth you've got an OBE and see what happens.
That's
Lewis Hamilton, please, I need to hear the question. Can you hear me?
And also, Tony, where's yours?
I don't know. I'm waiting. I'm in the sport, still doing a lot now in the sport, working in the schools, doing a lot. I'm still waiting.
Jarrett, we want him to get an honorary award, please. Let's get that going on. You heard me say it. This is the question. Carol from Parks. Since the last 7 years, Lewis Hamilton became world champion. Why do you think we haven't seen any other young black person come into the sport in the UK?
Yeah, but you won't. It's a great question. I think people still forget that Lewis Hamilton is the first black Formula One driver ever. I think people forget that. You know, like 2 weeks ago, right? At the Austria Grand Prix, he made everybody participate in a Black Lives Matter. Just bringing awareness. Everybody took the knee. Well, not everybody, which was quite significant. And for those drivers that didn't take the knee, we see you. But what was interesting is he came fourth in that race, right, due to a technicality. So what I did is I knew that he wouldn't be in the press conference. So I've gone through every single question that was asked to the winners, the drivers that made the podium, just to see if anybody mentioned what happened before the race, as significant as that was. Not one question. All right? So he wins the next week. And he's in there and he's asked about the fact that he done the fist, which he answered eloquently. But I thought it's very interesting that a bunch of Caucasians in a room didn't feel that it was necessary to ask a question about what the only black driver on the circuit instigated prior. With all the significance in the eyes of the world watching, they didn't feel it was necessary to bring it up.
We've been in the press call, we've been in the press rooms, right? And there are questions that the Caucasian reporters won't ask, and we do. I have done. Yeah.
No, you have to. I'm highlighting the fact that we've got a sport that there was no black people in there. Yeah. The one black person that did it, right, that is the driver. He's got a job to do, right? Yeah. So really, we shouldn't be relying on him. We should be relying on the critical thinking press to bring it up. They didn't. A failing. Why? We know why. The reason why I bring that up, Pam, the only reason why I bring that up is because the following week he won the race. Yeah. And what he did is he brought on Stephanie Travers onto the podium. Did anybody see that story?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm glad you did, because I know a lot of people didn't. Stephanie Travers is the first black woman to step on top of the podium 100%. At a Formula One race in history. She's a brake fluid engineer, and she's an integral part of that Mercedes winning team. What Lewis done is he hailed it as a significant moment in history. Yeah, history. In the sports history, but it took a black man to do it. Yes. So I'm saying that most of these sports have got a way to go, and if we don't participate, they don't care. So in answer to the person's question, why haven't we seen another black driver? It might take another 20 odd years.
And unfortunately, that's the reality of the whole thing, because you're going to base it around finance. You're going to base it around so many things that we don't want to or cannot. Hence why at the beginning, Joel, when I said, and I know you agreed and disagreed, it's about people sitting around the table. There is enough food on the table for everybody to eat. But as a race and as a people, until we can come together as one, we will not see those people escalate to higher levels. Hence your conversation with Venus's dad, Serena's dad, about it. It's about putting 1 pence, 5 pence into a pot as a community, highlighting certain people. Let's be behind them. Until we can do that, we will continue to struggle.
Well, it's funny because on that Serena Williams' dad, Richard, he pointed to the roof, the retractable roof, and he said, "You are in a country that they can spend 100 million on a roof and nothing in your community."
Exactly. No, but those are the things, unfortunately, Pam, that are reality, and it goes back to the beginning that we don't help ourselves. So how can we help ourselves without trusting ourselves? And so we'll always be in this situation. And as we all agree, it's the youths now and the young people, my son's 27, 28, they're the driving force, because we're sick and tired we're tired. And you're right, we're tired, but we still have history that can allow those 25-year-olds to the 35-year-olds to understand what we had to deal with. So someone says to me, "Mac, what did you have to deal with?" They don't know what I dealt with as a youth athlete coming through. Do you know what I mean? Little guy from Hackney making the 3A's championship final at 17 and finishing third. They don't understand that, coming home from training and getting chased by a national front through Kingsmead Estate. So they wouldn't know that, because as far as they're concerned, they've had to deal with certain things like that. But they haven't, because back then it was us on our own doing what we can for ourselves and protecting ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of those 25 to 35-year-olds that are really, and I'm so impressed with them pushing forward, they need to come back to the elders or the founders and say, "You know what? Damn, what did you guys have to go through? Because we think we had it hard, but we don't know." Our dads would have told you about the Teddy Boy fights and what they had to do. You know what I mean? And how they got called certain names and stuff like that. And it's just sense of ownership, and it's difficult.
Yeah, it is. It is. Tony, your last thoughts.
Well, I just think we just, as Black people, we just need to get together and do work together. I remember speaking to my dad, and the weirdest thing is what he said to me is when he got over here, when he came to this country, they couldn't get no money from the bank. So they had to do this thing called a partner. You know what I mean? And I remember getting my mom giving me this money. I'm going to this woman's house and giving her this money. A couple of months later, then I'm going back to the house and this envelope getting bigger and I'm bringing it back. And that's how our Black people did look after one another and help each other.
So true.
But now we're losing that, and that's what hurts me. We're losing that unity, and we need to get back to that. I remember seeing this not article, but I saw this about when the George Floyd thing went off, and there was this guy who was sort of saying, "Look, we have done the talks, we have done the writing, we've done all that. What else are we going to do?" And that's for us now, for us as Black people to get together, because I think we're powerful. We're a powerful nation, people, but we need to get together and work our way out. Because we can do this. We need to get people to fund our own people to fund things, because we've got people in big positions, but we need to get them to come in there and fund and help out and work together to get to be better.
Yeah, excellent. That is it in a nutshell. Guys, I've got to say thank you ever so much. I can't go through with all the questions and comments, but thank you ever so much. Joel, just we're leaving now, but give your last bit. Just as we
No, listen, everybody's points are valid, and it takes a village. We all need to chip in and help out. Intergenerational conversations. Don't lose that connection.
100%. 100%.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Mike McFarlane, OBE. Tony Jarrett. Hey, you better use it, mate. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you ever so much. Thank you, guys. Bless
Thank you
up.
very much for having us,
Bless up.
Pam.
Take care.
Appreciated.
Bye-bye.
Love
Oh,
you.
wow.
Bye
You know what I love to do? I love to talk to my people, man. My people, great. They've done things, you know, and they're still doing things, and I think they're wonderful. Google all of them and see what they're doing. Google all of them and see what they're up to now. They're coaching, they're training, they're still doing things. And Joel is still, you know, roving reporter. He's still doing it 2 decades later. You know, reporting on everything sporting wise, including inequalities and what have you. All great, all good. Hope you'll listen to a lot of things they said and maybe give you ideas. We may have to come back on that one later on in the year. Right now, we're going to take a break, and hopefully after that, I'm going to meet the one and only Mr. Patrick Robinson. See you in a minute.